How's it going, Lewis?
I am in assignment hell right now in college. That's how my personal life is going.
Well, that must suck. Like,
Yeah,
tests,
just a
finals
little.
or something? Well, not finals, but like the whatever they're called, where you have like your last assignments for the college semester or whatever.
They're more over just actual like continuous assessments, so assignments and shit. So I have to like make a game. I have to write in lab reports. I have to do some C++ coding. I also have to make a tank simulation. I also have to there's something else. But I also have exams. I had an exam Thursday, which went horribly. But whatever. I'm surviving.
Wow, yeah, sounds about right, actually.
Yeah, college. It's fun. Then I got like 4 exams at the start of May, which is beautiful. Oh, I also got a maths assignment. Boom. There you go. There's just adding more fuel to the fire.
Damn.
The fire which I wish to be engulfed in to end all this goddamn suffering.
Well, the semester must be close to ending, right?
The last teaching week is next week, but that's all about handing in assignments and revision. So, yeah, the semester's ending next week, which is kind of insane, really.
There you go.
Yeah, I don't like it.
Well, on an anime front, we've got our usual shows to talk about, except Cabaneri. Cabaneri did not air this week because of the... do you know what magnitude the earthquake was? I think it was 6.3.
I heard reports that it was 7.1.
Jesus, it may have changed. I
Yeah.
just remember when I woke up one day, the day that it happened, and I checked the news, it was apparently originally reported to be like higher than it actually was, and then like it kept changing. When I saw it, it was something like 6.3.
Yeah, no, people are reporting it. I'm just checking out. People are reporting 7.1.
Oh, so they may have updated it then to be more accurate or something.
Yeah.
But yeah, basically a giant fucking earthquake happened, and so a bunch of channels had to, have live news reporting what the fuck was going on, so some anime didn't get to air. They're airing,
Yeah.
as far as I'm aware of, pretty much everything that didn't air this week is just getting pushed to next week. So Cabaneri was caught in that, so we're not going to be talking about that this week. So we'll talk about everything else. Which is fine, because we still technically have to do a double feature on ReZero and technically
Oh,
Bungo
yeah.
Stray Dogs, since we didn't really talk about them last week.
So that kind of makes up for it. So it's kind of handy, really. Thank you, Earthquake, for saving us time. Yeah.
Wow,
It
did
was
you
not
just
a
think
thing.
an earthquake that just fucked up a good chunk of Japan?
Well, some people would say sarcasm here. Obviously, my condolences go out for all the families affected, and my prayers are with them. But it's this is kind of coincidental, really. I'm not saying we caused the earthquake here, but it is pretty handy for our podcast.
I know, man, but this is the internet. Do you really think people can detect sarcasm in this day and age anymore?
That is true. I'm probably got a lot of people angry at me right now. Everyone's starting a hashtag "Get Lewis's head on a pike," and
Hashtag blame Lewis, the resurgence.
yeah, the resurgence, take 2, the electric boogaloo.
Oh, God. All right, we should probably talk about Hero Academia then, since that's our primary show that actually did air a second episode. How was the second episode of Hero Academia for you, Lewis?
It kind of cemented to me for what it's actually going to be doing for the rest of it. I said last week that, shonens should probably concentrate on the setting rather than the characters for the majority of, for the start of their episodes. But, they obviously had a big focus on Deku is the main guy's name,
Deku's,
yeah.
I'm pretty sure his name, yeah.
Yeah. And All Might, which was pretty nice. There was obviously some dramatic effects done with like the music just blaring at you, and just dramatic scenes with him just groveling on the ground crying and that. But it was nice. It was unexpected from what I was expecting, which is what makes it unexpected. But it was nice, I guess. Like, it cemented itself as a character-based show, which would be interesting. It's probably the best way to go, since, the setting itself is just Japan with monsters. But is this really how it goes from here? It has a huge, not yet, but it is have a huge cast, so it's going to be interesting if they're going to do like character episodes for each episode, which will give it a long run until it, the main plot line comes in, or if they're going to just have those as kind of side characters and have a little thing going with Deku and Blonde Boy, voiced by Akamoto, Nobuhiko Akamoto, I should say. But until then, again, I still feel like something big is probably going to happen in episode 3, where Deku, I keep forgetting his name, is probably going to get his quirk. I still feel like that's going to happen, even though this episode heavily implied that, Deku is just going to be a hero without his... he's going to be a quirkless hero, saving people by running in, doing mindless shit. But whatever. I still feel like he's going to be a quirk, because, well, it'd just be strange if it wasn't, really.
True, it would be kind of strange, but at the same time, I feel like it could also kind of make sense given what they've going for. It's almost a little unpredictable in the fact that typically, yeah, he would get a quirk at some point because shonen, but at the same time, like, the story's being set up in a way that it could theoretically work without him getting one.
They did like really hype that up this episode, I feel, but yeah, I think it has a limit to which it can go for, which it can actually strive to do, because there's only a few acts of courage. I'll just look at it this way: when you got a bunch of people who have got these insane superpowers and can literally do all these insane acts of strength and courage with their quirks and shit, why would a guy who doesn't have any quirks get all the attention, and why would he be the one who ends up saving the day? There's a limit to like a hero spirit can give you. I feel like for Deku's actions to actually matter and feel like, yeah, I can actually see that happening, is that he would actually get a quirk of some kind, at least, be it minor or as major as it possibly could be.
Well, it's an underdog story. Like, you're supposed to relate the most to Deku because obviously we don't have superpowers, and this is a kid that lives in this world with all these crazy, exciting heroes, and he wants to be like them. So having him not have a quirk makes him more relatable. And I feel like if they do give him a quirk, it's going to have like a gigantic asterisk attached to it to have some like drawbacks to it in order to like keep that going. Because it's been riding the underdog, what do I call it? The underdog, I guess I'll just call it a theme, really hard so far, which is fine with me. I think it worked really well, especially in shonen, which is targeted towards, young boys. And even in a general audience, I'd say the underdog theme works pretty well. Definitely better than a fucking magical high school space Jesus, solving everything with the flick of a wrist, In
fairness, Mahouka wasn't really for young boys and be like an inspiring story. So
I know it's just still failed at everything it tried to do, though. I will never in my life forget the scene where an overpowered main character who struggles at nothing sits on his lavishly decorated couch in this, fancy rich house room talking about how people don't try hard enough for things.
Man, you really hate Mahouka.
Mahouka just fails on everything it stands for. Like, not only am I, like, in a real-world sense, fundamentally opposed to the messages it's talking about, it also sucks ass at delivering its own messages. Like, you can in a literary work or a visual work or whatever you want to call, various mediums, you can convince people to stand for positions they normally would not, simply based how things are portrayed. But Mahouka almost portrays it too realistically to the point where you're like, yeah, this stance is fucking stupid. And it's like, I always just go back to that scene. He's just sitting on the couch, sipping tea. Man, people are so jealous of others and they don't try for anything. Sips tea.
Yeah, well, I enjoyed the ride. It was fun. It's kind of strange, though, because, like, I didn't like Mahouka, definitely, but I didn't really have, like, that much of a kind of disdain for it as much as you did, because I just saw it as kind of like a okay, this guy's just completely overpowered. Yeah, the messages they're sending are kind of, contradictory to what's actually happening on screen, but I just kind of, was along for the ride, because Mahouka, well, I'd argue that it doesn't really try to make itself a smart show. At its core, it's literally just let's watch these guys beat them up, even though, they are immensely overpowered, to the extent that the enemy is the actual underdog in the story. But it was still an interesting ride, because I never got behind of it. I was always watching it each week, be that out of hatred for the show, and just me kind of oh, what shit are they going to pull this week? But I never fell behind on it. It was kind of it was weirdly enticing. Mahouka was.
I don't even know the majority of what you just said, because my connection just went kaputs. But what I was gonna say, almost regardless of what you were gonna say, anyways, is the fact that I could get Mahouka being entertaining if it was just it accidentally did those things. If it didn't mean to be about this overpowered guy doing all this, it's just on accident. I'd argue SAO kind of is accidentally about an overpowered main character. It's not flaunting it in your face and shit like that. I mean, well, it does, but it's not like the guy sat down and thought about writing it that way. It just kind of happened. But Mahouka, it's almost the entire point that he's so fucking strong, and then just the fact that it goes against it almost shows how you shouldn't stand for the things that it's trying to argue for, is just so fundamentally broken in a narrative sense that it's ridiculous. And then it fails on other regards too, how fucking boring it is, where you have a 7-episode school battle arc where they win everything, and then it gets to the end part, one of the last episodes in the school, battle arc, and they're oh man, we need to win these last 3 competitions, and it's you've won all of them so far. Why do you need to win these 3 too? Why is this? Why should I care? And then,
it's funny though that you mentioned that arc, because I literally just remembered the part of it where big boobed girl, she uses that kind of the flash to blind her rest of her opponents in in that surfing contest. Now, it's kind of funny how contradictory they did that, because in every other anime, that's the tactic the villain would use to kind of get that head start. But then everyone was oh god, what tactical brilliance on her part. Oh, that's brilliant. And everyone's just oh god, yeah, applaud her. She uses probably should have been a disqualified move, but wow, tactical brilliance.
Exactly. In any other show, that would have been portrayed as one of the other schools trying to use some dirty, underhanded tactic to try and get the lead and shit. But Mahouka does it, and they're just oh, you're strategic genius. It would at least work if some of the other schools tried to do things too. But the main school's the only one that does anything. They blind all the others, and they go crashing everywhere, and then they win by a landslide. And it's am I supposed to be cheering for these people?
They really are a piece of scum. But it was, God, it's kind of funny how they did actually set it all up, and they did win by a landslide. I did actually kind of enjoy that arc, because it was just I don't know, the competitions were fun to watch, but obviously there was no suspense to be unheard of. But dude, the Suzaku ripoff, Masaki, is that his name?
Something like that.
Yeah, he was an interesting character for 2 episodes, but still, those 2 episodes were fun, kind of, before he got completely owned, and he just kind of came a kiss up for.
It was,
dude.
He was weird too. Is that he was portrayed at first in the little teasers for him he was gonna be the guy to stand against Tatsuya strength wise, he was his equal, and then they have a match and Tatsuya snaps his fingers and he wins. So
yeah, he just makes him go deaf by snapping his fingers, and then he just afterwards he was just wow, what power! I love this guy.
I mean, to be fair, if that happened to me, I'd be is this guy Jesus?
If he was He did do like some pretty goddamn wacky shit though, like those flippy shit that he did to actually avoid his gunshots and stuff. that would probably impress anyone. You know, he's supposed to be really powerful, like really dead on shit. Like he was able to shoot a bunch of targets in like pitch blackness, and you know, he must have been super impressed by that. And then the click afterwards, you know, I would have been impressed by that. Even though he made me go deaf for a while, I'd still be like, you know, yeah, that guy'd be alright. But, you know, from an honest, yeah.
I just like when they threw all subtlety out the window and went overboard with the Jesus imagery at the end, and he just started straight up resurrecting people.
To this day, I kind of, like, wonder if that was just kind of, like, a nudge of the director. Like, he just kind of knew what he was playing with. He knew the kind of crap that he had on his plate. So he was just like, I'm just going to go full on with this shit. And just, it was just like a little joke for him just to literally make him look like Jesus. But the author was like, oh man, yeah, that's great. That's great imagery right there. I should have done that. And he was just like, no, wait, no, it's just, it was, okay, yeah, we'll go with that.
I mean, there's not much where else you can take Tatsuya after you literally show one part where he gets fucking sniped and shrugs it off.
Yeah. You just like, he gets shot, recoils back, and as he's recoiling, he's just like, okay, well, I'll just fix this up real quick. And then he just like, goes and just shoots him again with his handgun. Like, it's amazing, really.
Anyways, we spent like 15 minutes ranting about Mahouka instead of actually talking about, you know, academia.
Yeah. Well,
but I feel like explaining all the faults of Mahouka in a way is talking about the positives of the underdog angle in, you know, Hero Academia anyways.
Yeah, I would agree to that. You know, I just really... It's hard to kind of judge where it's going, though, after 2 episodes, I feel, because it has a sort of... To me, anyways, it's still up in the air whether or not Thingamaboopy Deku is going to actually get his quirk or not, so I'm just kind of waiting for that to happen, rather than... you know, just to kind of have that kind of constant underdog struggle with him having being completely quirkless rather than him actually getting a power. So, you know, I'm just kind of waiting for that inevitable thing to happen. I won't be disappointed if it doesn't happen, but, you know, it'd be kind of nice if it did happen. Because they're portraying it in his foot, so I can't imagine it being, like, a kind of cool superpower shit. It'll probably be like he can fly or some shit. It probably won't be something really overpowered, I imagine. That will kind of keep the underdogness there, but he will still have a quirk of some sort, and that will kind of be like a feel-good moment in the show. You know, he finally gets his quirk, and he'll be like, oh, I can fly, Mom! Look, I can be a hero now! And that's the feel-good moment, and that's when he kind of rises to the plate, really, to the big scene, and he becomes a hero.
Well, I thought the way the foot thing worked was that the missing joint or whatever just meant you were going to get a power. It didn't necessarily mean it was connected to the foot.
I still feel like, you know, the symbolism in the first episode, like, there's a bunch of, like, shots on his foot that could just be relating back to, like, you know, oh yeah, the joint is there, woo woo woo. But I just feel like they've made it so blatantly obvious that, like, yeah, pay attention to his foot. His foot is important, alright? Because some shit's gonna go down with his foot. I just feel like something is gonna happen there. There wasn't so much that symbolism in the second episode, but I still feel... I might be grasping at straws here, but I still feel like something is gonna happen.
Maybe instead of missing the joint to mean that he's gonna get superpowers, he grew an extra joint.
That could be it. That could be his thing. Maybe his power is that he has the ability to grow random joints. He can like bend his knee the other way and shit now.
Yeah, it was a good episode. I also like what they did with God, I can never remember his hero name. The number one hero, Might something.
All Might.
Yeah. I like what they do with his character in this, you know, making him a bit more relatable as far as, like, you know, he's not all, like, this untouchable god. He's been through shit, and so, like, he's also limited in what he can do, even with his superpower. So,
yeah.
That was pretty clever what they did with that. And then what was his punch this time? Detroit or something?
Detroit punch. Yeah. They made it rain.
Last time it was Texas, which was a state, and now they did Detroit, which is a city. Like, what's next? A county?
I'm pretty sure, like, they think Detroit is an actual state, since it's probably a lot more popular than Illinois in general.
It is pretty popular, so that would kind of make sense.
A lot of, like, people in Europe even think Detroit is an actual state rather than Illinois.
Did you think Detroit was a state?
I'm pretty sure a while ago I probably did. Like, we're not
to be
taught
fair,
the
to
states.
be fair, most Americans can't list the states either, so, you know.
Yeah, we're not taught the states in geography or some shit. Like, we just kind of have to learn it ourselves. And generally the most popular things are kind of like it. Like, I think I was 14 or something when I actually learned that there's two Washingtons. Like, there's Washington, D.C., and then there's Washington, like, beside Canada. Like, that kind of fucked me up.
Yeah. And Washington, D.C. still isn't, like, really a state. So, that's a thing, which doesn't really make sense. Excuse me. That's something that's actually been, like, thrown around politically for a while. Is like, why isn't it a state? Like, you know, why doesn't it have more, you know, kind of, like, power and shit like that? It's complicated, you know, internal U.S. political shit. But we also have Trump running for president, so what the fuck do we know?
Yeah, that's true. Isn't it, like, the capital, though? Like,
It's the capital, yeah. But it's not, like, an actual state. It's in a state.
Okay.
Yeah, it's weird.
Alright. Well, I can't really fathom it. Like, I'm pretty sure Northern Ireland, it confuses a lot of other people. So, I can deal with the confusion.
Yeah. We should probably move on, though. We talked about... Well, actually, we talked about Mahouka probably more than Hero Academia, but that's fine, because it was in comparison.
Mm-hmm.
Let's do... We didn't talk about it at all last time, so let's talk about ReZero, which is your actual pick for this season.
Oh, yeah. Well, it's interesting, to say the least. It's going to be kind of interesting where to go for a minute, and how far they're actually going to take his entire respawning thing. I'd like to see some sort of, like, almost log horizon effect with when he, like, dies and when he respawns again. Like, he just gradually, like, loses memories of himself. He loses, like, who he actually was, and in the end, if he respawns too many times, he basically just becomes another almost NPC of that fantasy world and just kind of goes about his daily doldrums, so to speak. I don't know if they'll go about with that. It'll be interesting if they do. I want to actually have some sort of consequence for the respawn, so I don't know, maybe he comes back with a more dominant personality trait when he comes back. Like, one time he respawns, he could be really scared. One time he respawns, he could be a really confident guy. Something like that. But this is just something I want from here on out. As for what actually happened in the episodes, it was okay. I can't really criticize much, since again, this is probably more about setting up its world. It's trying to kind of subtly tell you the background with, like, everything with Satella, or the witch, or selfish witch, or whatever her thing was, to just be blatantly obvious and saying, like, yeah, there's slums here. Slums are a big part of this world, and people are sad in these slums. So they obviously have some sort of, like, class difference established, which is nice from the get-go. As far as characters go, I feel like Subaru... No, is Subaru his name? Yeah.
I think so, yeah.
I feel like he'll probably be the main attraction, since his ability and all. I feel like he'll probably get the most development as a character going forward. Like, people like Felt and, well, Satella, or I forget her name, will probably
We
have
don't really
some
know her
sort of
name.
character arc going.
We just know her as Satella, yeah. We don't
Yeah,
really know her name, we
Satella.
just know her as Satella.
Going forward, they'll probably have like some sort of character arc that they'll go through. However, I feel like the only person that will truly develop as a character and actually become like have that constant internal struggle throughout the show will probably be Subaru, which is fine because, well, he's the main character thrusted into another foreign world. He'd probably have like some qualms with it, so it'd be interesting where to go from here. I'm a fan of this general trait. I feel like it can definitely be done good, equally as it could be done bad. Konosuba recently did it pretty damn well. I can't think of anything that's done it pretty horribly, but you know, I'm just really willing to see how it goes from here, because so far it's done a pretty good job as far as world building and setting the actual plot hook, if you will, of the entire Respawn thing that Subaru has.
Do you think people might grade the show excessively harshly because of how popular Konosuba was last season?
I feel like ReZero and Konosuba kind of are two different things. Like, they have, like, obviously the big similarities. Like, even the main characters kind of look alike with the jerseys and everything. But due to the fact that ReZero is going to be a lot more serious, and, well, it should be a lot more serious, and it's definitely trying to do a lot more with its world, I feel like it won't get judged that heavily. If it was just a plain comedy, then the similarities will be like just completely dead on, and people would have a right to criticize it. However, it would be kind of like going back to Sword Art Online and Ixion Sega DT. It'd be kind of like judging those two as similar things. One's a comedy and one's a kind of drama-y show. Same kind of goes for here. One's the comedy and one's kind of drama-y show. So it'd be more or less people just grasping at straws more than anything. Because even though they have similar setups, they're going to be much different shows in the long run. And I think people, as time goes by and as this kind of continues airing, people will generally funnel in and actually criticizing the show rather than kind of branching out on looking for a lot of similarities with Konosuba and stuff.
Right, but didn't people judge Ixion compared to SAO anyways, even despite the comparisons, which is kind of like my point. Like, obviously Konosuba was more comedy and ReZero was more serious, but it doesn't stop people from saying, hey, it's some nerd in a fantasy world. What the fuck? I like this one more.
At the start, there was definitely a lot of criticisms for Ixion Saga. People, the same thing went for Log Horizon, I feel. At the start, everyone kind of criticized it.
That too, Log Horizon being compared to SAO, that was a thing too.
Like, it was just like everyone criticized it for kind of garnering on Sword Online's entire hype train of being trusted into a game. However, as it aired, a lot of people saw what Log Horizon had to bring to the table, and people generally enjoyed the hell of it. At the end, when it finished airing, everyone was like, "Oh yeah, that was a lot better than Sword Art Online. God, that was better than Sword Art Online." But that was probably due to the fact that the notoriety of what Sword Art Online got, and to the fact that everyone was just really happy with what they got out of Log Horizon. During the entire process of while Log Horizon was airing, people were just enjoying the show. I feel like the comparisons ended after about episode 3. That's how I think, anyways, because it kind of branched off onto it to be its own little show.
Yeah, over time, definitely the comparisons will waver. Probably that is true. It's a little different though. It's just because ReZero still does retain some bits of comedy. It is largely more serious than it is a comedy, but it does have those lighthearted bits to it that make me concerned that people will judge it just sheerly based on comparison. Because it's like that thing where two similar shows or games come out, and everyone always asks which one is better. And whenever you say you like one over the other, that automatically makes the other one shit, because apparently two similar things aren't allowed to be good. Like, one has to be better than the other, and in turn, that makes the other one shit for some reason.
Yeah. At the end of the day, this kind of comes down to what type of show you want. Do you want a comedy or do you want a drama? It'll be hard to... this is just more of a personal thing, but it's kind of hard to really say what show is better when they are in different genres completely. Because you enjoy them and you watch them for different purposes. Like, I enjoy Daily Lives of High School Boys, but I really enjoy Gossip. It'll be really hard to kind of say which one's better, though, because they are two completely different shows. So, since that's a thing, people will still, like, disregard that because the settings are similar, even though it's going to be two different shows, which is going to be annoying, but, you know, you can't really change the anime community.
Well, can't change the internet in general.
Yeah.
But yeah, I like these, I guess I should say 3 episodes of ReZero, because technically the first one was an hour long, but it was aired in, I guess, 2 different time slots, which is why it was 2 normal length ones as opposed to 1 big one. What I liked about it is that, I guess in combination with the 3rd episode, is I like the way they're handling the information in regards to his ability to resurrect himself back to that single point in time. Yeah. Which is that it feels like the characters in the world, like whoever Satella actually is, whoever Felt and all those people, like it feels like the author had kind of like written a story of them already, almost like it would be like a prequel to what's going on now. And now this new nerd's coming in who has no idea about any of these people, and so we're almost entering a story like halfway through. Because, like, for example, when the girl tells him to call her Satella, like, obviously there's a little interaction there with her familiar in her where it's like, are you sure? You know, almost like this, you know, like, these characters in this world know things that we don't. And it's like they have this lived-in world and, like, ideas and issues and various other things that we don't really know about, and in turn the main character doesn't really know about. So how he's, like, learning little tidbits of this information just by, like, doing slightly different things each time is a really cool way to dole out information and show how, like, you know, there's much more to this world than is on the surface. Like, one of the biggest things in the double episode that aired at the beginning was when he won the bidding war to get the item back, and he says, oh, I'm going to return it to its owner, and then suddenly the tone just shifts on its fucking head. Everyone's just like, what the fuck did he just say? And you're just like, why is this such a big deal? And you don't know why it's a big deal yet. You want to know why it is. You know, who's this fucking crazy bitch that's like fucking Ezio Auditore all of a sudden, you know, murdering everyone? It's a neat way to dole out information like that, because you learn little bits here and there, even though it's technically the same chunk of time, just by the slight differences that he does. So, assuming he can keep that up, it's a really cool way to learn about the world and the characters. Fucking connection, I don't know where I cut out.
I think you just kind of cut off on something about you learn same chunks of you learn new chunks of information being at the same chunk of time or something like that.
Yeah, like technically you're in the same stretch of time because he keeps resurrecting, but you learn new things within that chunk of time, and it's a cool way to learn about the world and the characters.
Yeah, no, that is essentially like what's its shining point at the moment. Like, comedy isn't, but it has done some nice things drama wise that has kind of made me kind of be very enthusiastic about it. Even as something subtle as like Subaru's reactions and stuff to as the world that goes by. I initially kind of criticized it because he didn't automatically click onto the fact that like, oh, this is the same stuff that's happening. I should probably go about a different action rather than carry out the same thing. But you know, it's probably a decent way to show the world to everyone and show how these kind of things just play out if he does a slightly different way each time.
Yeah,
I feel like yeah, you go.
I was just gonna say how basically what you're saying is it's cool how when he's learning, that he is resetting time, that he actually does die a different way each time. Like, it's not like he keeps dying the same way and is like, I don't get what's going on,
Yeah, no, I was glad that he was able to figure out it at like a pretty. I think episode 3 was probably the key point for him to actually episode 2 rather. Yeah, it was probably like a key point for him to figure out what was going down. It'd be interesting to see though, as time progresses, to see when he gets like his next checkpoint, if you will. So when he dies, he'll respond to a new point in time, and I'll be kind of interested to see what that point in time is, because it'll be a defining moment in the story. Even if like the character doesn't, even if the audience doesn't even realize it, it'll probably just be like a weird exchange. Like even like the entire exchange that's going on now, it'll be kind of interesting to see in general. But that's what I'm really hoping for. I mean, what I hope to see anyways. But so far, so good. Like I've seen a lot of reactions to the episodes themselves, and everyone's been kind of like, yeah, it's mediocre at best. Like but really, it's been probably the most interesting show I've seen this season. Really, that actually, in exposition wise, anyways, it's definitely been the most interesting watch to see.
Yeah, like it keeps you on your toes. Like I mentioned before about how the littlest things Subaru can do can end up, getting him completely murdered, and you have no idea what those things are. Like obviously you could have expected somewhat of a reaction when he said he was going to return the brooch to its owner, but you don't expect, a complete slaughter fest to happen. So, like you really have no idea what's going to happen at any point in time in the show, which also keeps you on your toes a bit.
Yeah, I like to see like how it also affects Subaru as he goes on, because like in episode 2 when he was just clearly a little bit hesitant to say, okay, if I say that I'm going to return this to the owner, that means shit's going to go down. I'm just going to try and not give that info away, even though like he doesn't know why it's a big deal. He just goes about avoiding it completely, about like digging things up, and it's a nice little thing that like he's going about avoiding it while just blatantly asking about it. It's a pretty obvious course of action saying that as like an audience member, but it's still pretty nice to see him actually go about that and learning from his mistakes, if you will, even though he doesn't realize that it was he doesn't understand why it was a mistake rather.
Yeah. Anything else about ReZero, or are we done?
I don't know.
I'll take that as a yes. That means that last up on the trolley, I don't know why I'm calling it a trolley, is Bungo Stray Dogs, which you hadn't watched last time we did this. So what did you think of the first 2 episodes of Bungo Stray Dogs, Lewis?
Not necessarily artsy, but not exactly normal. Like I know that's it's kind of hard to describe, but like it was enjoyable to say the because how can I even describe it? Like
Bungo Stray Dogs is a bit hard to talk about.
Yeah, because like it's a definitely enjoyable show. It definitely has its like fun points here and there, and it definitely has the opportunity to be a very great character-driven show that has a wide range of like characters. Mamoru Miyano's character is fantastic, may I add. He's just the funniest dude. Yeah.
The writing for the character itself is great, and then obviously Mamoru Miyano and the delivery is like giving it 110%, so it's just even better.
His deliveries are just beautiful, really. But it's going to be interesting to see how it goes, because there isn't really much information to kind of like talk about, really, because it's more about how we can possibly ponder about what's going to happen. How he's probably going to contain his entire tiger doohickey, and how that's going to work into him becoming a superstar within that group or whatever. To be honest, it's really hard to see where it's going to go from here. I can imagine them being almost kind of like episodic, where they just go on some random adventure and try and save the day from a random threat or some stuff like that. But at the same time, it could also be very character driven, have a nice little character arc with the main dude, make him actually get him some nice little bit of self-worth and self-confidence restored in him. That'd be nice. But really, like, I am definitely enjoying the show, but it's hard to tell what's going to happen. And it's not really in the kind of like, oh, I'm on the edge of my seat kind of thing. It's more of a, where can they go from here kind of thing.
True. I would say the first 2 episodes, though, definitely do feel like the intro. Like, the first one kind of introduces you to the main character, the concept of the world itself, with, all the various characters and their powers, even if it doesn't show all the powers off yet. And then the second episode is him joining the agency with the little teaser at the end of some dude doing something bad. So It definitely feels like this is the intro, episode 1 and 2 combined. So I feel like episode 3 will probably give us a much better idea of where the show's going.
Yeah, that will probably... I say once they introduce the main villain, that's when probably shit will hit the fan. But at the moment, it was really a perfect intro, really. It laid out all the characters pretty well. Well, 3 of the characters pretty well. And set up pretty much the entire... I wouldn't necessarily say concept of the show and how it's going to go from here, but just the entire direction and how it's going to be just played out, so to speak, from here, I guess. It's hard to really describe it. It's really hard to describe.
Yeah, it's part of... Even though it's an adapted work, it's definitely kind of like a part of the Igarashi and Ukito combo in how they like do their shows. It's not... In the way it does conform to a lot of standards and like how narratives kind of go, like it's got, the basic foundations there, like they're not that experimental in that regard, but at the same time they do like to fuck with things. So it's like kind of hard to know where they could go at any point in time, because they're the kind of guys who would turn shit on its head at a fucking moment's notice. So it's kind of nice, but at the same time it's like, the fuck are you gonna do this episode, Like it's a bit hard to tell.
I say once they get their main story and what's going to happen with the villain, I say once they kind of, bring that up and bring that into play, it'll be a lot more, I wouldn't say predictable, but it'll be a lot more easier to kind of see out almost, and see where they're kind of going to go from here, and see how it affects our beautiful cast of characters, really.
Yeah, something I mentioned last time, somewhat vaguely since you hadn't watched it yet, was that one of the aspects of Igarashi's directing that I liked is that he's capable of keeping things lighthearted a lot of the time, but at the same time he knows how to like switch the tone on a dime and like make things dramatic without making the shift really jarring at all. Yeah. Like that's something he's almost like a fucking master at. But at the same time, something else that he's good at that I didn't mention, partially because I didn't really want to since you hadn't seen the episodes yet, is that he's it's not necessarily realistic, but he's really good at characters having body language and how they like move around and act and such. Like obviously there's the really popular gif of the ending of the first episode where the little scene where Moriyama's character is all like, I have no such taste in men, and kind of like flicks him aside and like moves forward a bit. Just the way he like moves during that scene like lends character to him. It's something Igarashi does a lot with his directing, is he kind of shows off the characters and the way they move, which is something a lot of other directors don't really pay attention to. They just kind of move around, and then they talk to people, and then the story keeps going.
Yeah, no, it was very, I suppose, expressive with how everything.
Expressive's a good word.
Yeah, with everything, how they've been kind of doing their entire character exchanges, really. There isn't really a dull moment to be had, even in conversation. Like, there's always some sort of movement, so to speak, where it be like, main character's beady eyes just kind of shaking here and there just because just to symbolize nervous and shit. Or it could just be kind of Mariano's character just kind of flaunting about and just waving his arms and stuff, some weird like that. Or the other dude, I don't know, just taking notes out of, I don't know, necessity or something like that. Like, there was definitely some activity going on screen that helped keep the viewer's attention throughout, and also kind of made it feel a lot more live rather than, just being a close-up on someone's face and then the only thing that's on screen that's moving is just the mouth flaps. So that really did help as a viewer to just get enthralled by it, but it also kind of helped the characters as well be a lot more alive and a lot more just realistic almost.
Yeah, that's definitely a part of what drew me to Igarashi in the first place. When I first, well, it wasn't the first time I'd seen him really, but the first time I really kind of fell in love with directing with Star Driver is just how these characters feel so, I guess like you said, expressive. Like, the way they move, like, each character makes sense given their personality, like how they're drawn as far as how they do things,
Yeah, no, it's definitely just a very, I was going to say enthusiastic show to watch, but that doesn't really make sense. Yeah, no, like, as far as the entire, how everything's been portrayed so far, there's definitely no complaints there. Like, it's doing a damn good job of how everything has been kind of shown to you and how the characters kind of are. Like, one thing I do like is that, like, they're how can I word this? Like, they are being they have exposition being portrayed through their movements and through their mannerisms and stuff like that. Like, they're not just pretty much being described by words. Their actions and their mannerisms and how they act are also building their character up and making them just generally be a well-rounded cast, really. Like, you're getting to know the characters without them actually being told to you about them, if that makes sense.
Yeah, like, you don't just have, character go up and go, that chick's a tsundere, and then she's a tsundere.
Yeah. You also don't have, like, a person attacking an enemy, blatantly describing, oh, you killed my father, I don't like you because you killed my father, I'm going to kill you because you killed my father.
We're not getting into this right now. This isn't a Bungou review podcast or something.
Well, we talked about Mahouka for a lot of it. This is but
Mahouka's shit.
Bungou is shit.
You're shit.
Your face is shit.
You're shit.
It's fucking, I can't believe you said that.
Sorry, man, I went too far.
Yeah, man, you really did. This, like, the first time I accepted it. The second time was just really last nail in the coffin. I'm gonna did not need that.
Wow.
Yeah.
I think that about does it for Bungo Stray Dogs, though. I don't think we...
yeah, no, there's not really much to add.
Yeah.
Because we covered the story, we covered the direction, everything was just covered.
Yeah.
Yeah.
We have a little bit of time. I'm a little scared to talk about anything else because my connection issues have been fucking annoying today, but is there anything else you're watching this season?
So say no...
Twin Star Exorcists?
Yeah, that.
Yeah,
I watched the first episode of that. Visually, it's really, really nice. Like, I think it's a very visually appealing show. The music was great. As far as an actual show, like actual character wise, story wise, it's pretty. But as a visual spectacle and just actually watching it, it's really, really nice to watch. Like it's just something that you just. I wouldn't necessarily call it a popcorn flick, but it's something that you could just sit back and just kind of like accept what's coming and just kind of enjoy it. Because I haven't watched episode 2 yet, but episode 1, the entire fight sequence was just beautiful. Even though it was like in a very dark red world, just that kind of like the way the exorcists are kind of that kind of bright blue light going through it, that kind of like shunning and slicing the dark out of it. I really found that really, really nice to watch, and just visual spectacle, if you will.
Yeah, I basically had the same reaction to the first episode. It was neat visually. I especially liked whenever the main chick did like one of her strong attacks. Like it almost did like the video game kind of like visual thing, where she had like that little like cut into the screen where it was like a close up of her face. Like that was amusing. But story wise, I was just like, I guess I'll watch the second episode. And I'll say I like the second episode a lot more, mainly because it introduced the best character, even though he's probably never going to be around after this episode. So you might like the second episode. It also has some pretty good English in it.
Okie dokie. Yeah, that'd be a fun watch. I just like the music's interesting, and it's kind of funny that you did mention the kind of like cuts on the screen when she's doing the move, because the director did direct Persona 4 the golden animation. So
then suddenly everything makes sense.
Yeah, so that's why the cut kind of came in. So yeah, I guess that's I kind of cover Sosei, Twin Exorcists or whatever, because I've not really much more to say. Visually, very nice story.
Yeah. Are you watching? I don't know if you were interested in before the season started. Did you? Are you watching Sabrina the Teenage Witch, aka Flying Witch?
I was going to judge the general reaction of how everyone viewed that, and if it was good, I'd watch it. If it's not, then I haven't watched it. I haven't watched it yet since I still need to get more opinions and stuff. So yeah,
it's kind of like totally. It's similar to a lot of like the slice of life shows where not a whole lot happens, but it's not about stupid little kids. It's about stupid older teenagers in like almost college. So it like automatically works better because you infinitely care more about like the kind of useless shit they're doing rather than the useless shit little kids do. So it works a lot better in that regard. And like the comedy's a little low key. Like it's not like this big bombastic comedy. Like a character will just do something and then the character will like have a face, and then like there's no audio cues or anything even going on at the time. Like it's almost like a stream of consciousness. Like things just happen and there's not a whole lot going on other than the occasional lighthearted, background music.
Sounds kind of interesting. Anyways,
It's
to be honest, anything with like college students or stuff like that immediately kind of gets to me, because college student right here. So it'd just be nice to watch like me in an anime. Basically,
I think they're actually in high school, but I think they're close to finishing.
Yeah, tomato.
Yeah. But it's definitely a show you can watch the first episode of, and you'll know if you want to see more or not. It's a good encapsulation of what the show as a whole is probably going to be like, so definitely. Cool. You honestly don't even need to wait for more opinions. You can just watch the first episode of Flying Witch, and you'll know if you want to watch more or not.
That's true. That's very true. Another show that I was actually going to wait on opinions is Mayo and Egg, as I'm calling it, or
Mayoiga?
Mayoiga, yeah.
It's something like that. Mayoiga. I don't know. It's weird.
I'm just calling it May and Egg.
Just call it mayonnaise.
Well, May and Egg works better because there's a G and an A in there, and there's also mayo. So it's just
True. It's just if you're going with mayo, you may as well just finish up with mayonnaise.
Yeah, but it's Mayo and Egg.
Fine.
Egg. May and Egg. Egg.
Okay. Yeah, I've watched the first 2 episodes of mayonnaise.
May and Egg.
Shut up. It's I don't know how to describe it. It's kind of weird. Like it's a bunch of social rejects on a bus going into the middle of nowhere because fuck the system, and then nothing's really happened yet other than people getting angry at each other. But they're probably just gonna keep getting angry at each other, and then bad shit's gonna happen. So it's kind of hard to say, like, because nothing's really happened as of 2 episodes. The second episode ended with like, oh god, something may have happened. But we don't really know anything until probably the third episode, where it's probably gonna be like a.
To be honest, the entire premise behind May and Egg just kind of reminds me of Amane's arc in Grisaya no Kachizu, the first one. The entire, like, the fact that she goes on a bus, they crash, everyone gets fucked up. I imagine it's probably going to go down that sort of similar vein. So that's what's kind of putting me off. Because, you know, as much fun as mass murder is, you know, I don't think I have to pick up an entire show to get that as an end result, you know.
True. Like I said, it's hard to say where it's really going until the third. It seems pretty obvious that it's going the direction of everyone getting murdered somehow or another, but it could also be like the biggest misleader in history. Like, it could be doing a reverse Madoka, where it's like fucking edgy and stupid and crazy. Or no, what am I talking about? Where it's, well, I guess kind of. It's like, you know, everyone's angry and like obviously there's like dread in the air, and then like after the third episode, turns out no, everyone's gonna be happy and it's gonna be a slice of life show until the last episode airs.
Everyone just, like, you know, sets up camp everywhere. They go hunting for nuts and all that.
Yeah,
can't wait.
I think that's all about what we have time for. So
yeah.
Do you want to give an outro, Lewis?
Oh God.
You can plug yourself. You can just say bye, whatever you want.
I've plugged myself enough, really. You don't even plug yourself, and yet I'm doing it. Like,
why would I plug myself? This shit goes on my channel.
Yeah, but like, you don't even like say, "Oh, guys, follow my Twitter for more hilarious anime tweets and reviews." And
I have my Twitter linked in my fucking profile shit with like an alternate account thing you can look at. It's pretty easy to find.
Yeah, but like, you know, no people like really like pay that much attention to it. Like, people have to be told this shit, man.
Hey guys, subscribe to my YouTube channel. Follow my Twitter at what's my Twitter handle? It's Ryoga's Rambling. I couldn't fit the extra S because of a text limit, so it's just Ryoga's Rambling. So that's it. Yay.
Yeah. Follow my Ask FM that you don't actually answer.
I stopped using Ask FM like a year ago. People kept asking questions, and I answered them in bundles, and it was just like the bundles got too big, so I was like, fuck this.
I'm pretty sure like you probably got enough questions to like answer one a day, and then that'll sort you out for like the rest of the year, basically.
Probably. Anyways, that's it for this week's whatever. So
yeah. We're actually on time today, which is great.
Yeah. So bye, I guess.
Bye.